Hello everyone, back to today's video. Going to have a look at the weather next week, 10 days. In today's video, this will take us to around the 21st of January. So we're off into the second half of the month and the second half of winter, of course, with this update today. We've got some cold weather coming up next week. Wind's going to be in from the west, so it's a westerly flow, but it's going to be a cold westerly flow. And I think we have an increasing risk of snow, actually, as we go through next week. So I'll be talking you through all the situations with that. Quite an unusual pattern setting up next week, something that we call cold zonality. So I'll talk you through everything that's going on with next week's weather in a moment. We'll also have a look at the latest on the stratosphere, see if that stratospheric warming has sort of solidified overnight in terms of the other models, because the GFS has been going for it, but we'll have a look at ECMWF and see what that's showing as well. So we'll begin with the stratosphere. This is the stratospheric temperature forecast from the GFS model for 10 HPA, starting on the 19th of January. This from a website metroseal.fr, by the way. So these blue and purple colours, where we've got these cold temperatures in the stratosphere at 10 HPA, which is kind of like the top layer of the atmosphere. So where we've got those blue and purples, that's where the temperatures are very cold. Around the edges, that's where we've got some slightly warmer air through the stratosphere. For several days now, the GFS operational runs have been going for a stratospheric or a sudden stratospheric one, which is where the temperature shoots up over just 2 or 3 days very quickly in this top level of the atmosphere, in the stratosphere, and starts to penetrate into the North Pole. Let's see what this latest run of the GFS model does. So we're running through to day 10, which is 21st of January, and we've got these green and yellow colours again starting to gather across Europe and also into parts of Russia as well. That's the beginnings of a warming event taking place. We run through to extended part of the GFS model, and the temperature, yes, it's lifting up again. Here we go, the red colours are appearing, so that by the time you get through 27th of January, a massive warming event is taking place in the stratosphere at 10 HPA, particularly centering on sort of Russia and Siberia, but also now starting to push in towards the pole. Now, the only thing I'd say about this is that at the moment, I'm not sure this is getting any closer. So, a few days ago, we were centering this around this major warming, around the 23rd of January. Let's have a look at 23rd of January again. So this is 23rd of January now. Now, 2 or 3 days ago, that's when the major warming event was taking place. 23rd of January now, we are seeing the warming gathering, but the main part of warming is actually happening just after 23rd of January, so around sort of 25th to 26th, 27th. That's when the main warming event takes place. So rather than this getting any closer, actually it might be that this major warming event is being pushed back a little bit by a couple of days compared to where it was, let's say, on Sunday and Monday. Now, this is nothing necessarily to be overly concerned about if you want a sudden stratospheric warming. But, of course, as the time gets closer towards this final week of January, we would be hoping to see, if we're going to get this, that it starts to get closer rather than further away. So I think it's still a little bit inconclusive about whether we're going to get this major warming event in the stratosphere. Certainly I'll focus on the 23rd of January. I think it'll happen sometime through this final week of January, but exactly when it happens, if it happens, I think that is still open to some doubt. And I said yesterday that we want to start seeing other models beginning to come on board with this. Now, at the moment, the ECMWF is only extending out, it only goes out 10 days, it doesn't go out as far as the GFS model does. At the moment, the ECMWF is extended to the 20th of January. We've already established but it's around the 23rd, 24th that this begins at the moment, if the modelling is right. And it may not actually reach its peak, this warming, until, let's say, the 27th of January. So that's well past the ECM WF timeframe. So at the moment, this is all we can go up to, which is the 20th of January. This is the forecast from the ECMWF at the University of Berlin website. This is the temperature forecast for 10 HPA, that top level of the atmosphere stratosphere. Again, that is the North Pole of the Northern Hemisphere just there, that black cross. So just give you a little bit of focus, this is kind of like Scandinavia just here. The UK is down there. We've got Europe down here. Russia is over here. Now, it is a little bit interesting what's happening here, because we have got these beige colours appearing in this part of the chart on the 20th of January. So that's a slight warming that's taking place over the Mediterranean and sort of southern Europe. And if we have a look at the sort of same time frame with the GFS, which is here, so this is the 20th of January with the GFS, and we have got this, and this is where it all begins really, with this minor warming, these green and yellow colours across Europe, and particularly southern parts of Europe around the 20th of January. And so at that point, and as far as we can go for ECMWF, but at that point it does look as though the ECMWF is kind of similar there, with that minor warming that's occurring through Europe and southern parts, particularly some parts of Europe through the Mediterranean. So if we could go on further, you will think that maybe, because it does look kind of similar to what the GFS is showing on the 20th of January, if we could go a little bit further, maybe the ECM would extend that and develop into something like this. Of course, that's very speculative, and can't say that the ECMWF would definitely develop this minor warming that we've got down here in southern parts of Europe. We can't say that it would definitely go in the same direction as the GFS, but it's kind of similar for that day, for the 20th of January. As I've been saying over the past few days, we will know more from the ECMWF in around 2 or 3 days' time. So over the weekend, we will get a clearer idea, I think, about where the ECM is seeing the chance of this major warming event occurring through the final week of January. So it's all rather inconclusive still at the moment, still early days, but obviously the GFS is picking up on something. Definitely it's picking up on something, because it has so many operational runs now of the GFS that have been showing this major warming event through this final week of January, that it is obviously picking up on some significant developments in the stratosphere through the last stage of January, but exactly where we go with it, that is still inconclusive. Right, let's get on with weather next week, 10 days. And even without a southern stratospheric warming, we're doing pretty well for cold weather, because it's going to be turning a lot colder through the course of next week. So these are the 500 millibar height anomaly flow charts for the next 7 to 10 days from the Penn State University website. I've got the ECMWF here on the top, and the GFS, which I'll look at in a moment, is on the bottom. 500 millibars, centimeters of feet is an area in the atmosphere. High pressure and low pressure are being withdrawn by a jet stream running above. Blue extrapolates to low pressure, and red to high pressure. So the ECMWF is placing a deep trough within the 500 millibar flow over the UK and western parts of Europe. And then we've got all these red colours up here. That is high pressure, that's blocking, that's going on up here. So even without a sudden stratospheric warming, and this being the case throughout most of winter, we're not doing too badly at all in terms of getting some above average heights into the Arctic and some high pressure into there, and pushing the jet stream south. We are on the cold side of the jet stream with this. A black line's here indicating where the jet stream is, and that's generally to the south of the country, going underneath this trough. So that looks cold and wintry from the ECMWF as we're going into the 7 to 10 day time frame. And the GFS is the same as well. So this is what GFS is doing. Again, these red colours up here over the top of the pole, and also got a bit of an Atlantic ridge just there. And then we've got this trough of below average heights over and to the east and to the southeast of the country, with jet stream going south as well. Now, what's going to happen with this is that not only is it going to bring cold conditions into the UK through the course of next week, but you're going to find winter biting across many parts of Europe as well, because that jet stream is going down into southern parts of Europe, and this trough will pull down cold air with it. It's a cold core trough of low pressure. So all those areas across many parts of Europe, particularly central, eastern, southeastern Europe, all those areas where it's been very, very mild through this winter, I think the next week to 10 days, you're going to start to see winter beginning to bite. It's going to start to bite really quite significantly, I would think. These are the GFS temperature and precipitation on the next couple of weeks. We're looking at Berkhamsted today. So we've got the red line here, which is the 30-year upper air temperature average. Quite close to average over the next 2 or 3 days. It's anticyclonic, so it's going to be fairly chilly, really, up to the weekend. Then through to next week, we're going colder than average, and we're staying cold than average. We're staying under the red line then into the final week of January. Dates on the bottom of the charts, of course. This is the final week of January just here. So quite a pronounced run, about a week really, of colder than average temperatures starting on Monday and running through then the rest of next week and into the following weekend. As far as rainfall is concerned, a lot of dry weather coming up until Monday. Then we have this active cold front pushing down across the country, bringing quite a bit of wet weather. And then beyond that, we're into showery stuff. It's not completely dry with this colder weather, so there will be, I think through the course of next week, there will be an increasing risk of wintry conditions, particularly in the north, but not exclusively so. I'm going to show you some precipitation type forecasts from the GFS and the ECDF model in this video. In terms of surface temperature, so again, we're starting off at around average, really, somewhere around 6-7 degrees in Berkhamsted. We're going to keep those temperatures very close to average up to the weekend, and then next week we're going colder than average. See the temperatures dipping down before maybe in the final week of January we start to get a little bit of a recovery, although that's a very long way off. And in this period here there is a lot of scatter with several ensemble members really cold, several members are quite mild, so that's all to be determined. But certainly for around a week from Monday through to the next weekend, we are going to find that the temperatures are really quite significantly colder than average. Temperature anomalies are looking like this, going from the 11th to the 19th of January, coming out a little bit colder than average for the UK and Ireland. And now, notice that parts of Europe are beginning to cool down as well. Still, generally, much of Europe is coming out with a warmer than average, a milder than average temperature anomaly this week. But where we've had these bright red colours, significantly above average temperatures across much of Europe over this winter, we are beginning to see paler colours appearing. So it is starting to cool down, and I think when we look at these next week, they will be displaying much of Europe into colder than average temperatures. Precipitation anomalies for next week, 11th to 19th of January. Coming out drier than average for much of the UK. But it's a mixed bag, actually. So Ireland is a bit wetter than average. France is wetter than average, for example. Germany is generally a bit drier than average. So it is a mixed bag from country to country. But for UK, it is generally on the drier than average side. In America, so it's warmer than average in the west of the states and colder than average, again, through central and eastern states. I think from around the middle of the month, we're going to start to see a warm-up taking place. It may last longer than the warm-up that we just had recently. But nevertheless, for the next week, the 11th to 19th of January, the temperature anomaly for much of the states, away from the west anyway, is colder than average. Precipitation anomalies in America from the 11th to 19th of January. Generally, the northern parts of America coming in a bit wetter, a bit above average with precipitation anomalies, and southern America, southern states, coming out a bit drier than average. This is how the GFS is looking back to UK and Europe for Sunday. So we're still just about under the influence of this ridge to our east, but the main driver is actually this area of low pressure just to the south of Greenland. It's a really deep area of low pressure, and it has a lot of cold air associated with it. So Sunday we're still just about under anticyclonic conditions, but by Monday, wet and windy weather is sweeping across the country. That's the changeover, and behind that band of wet and windy weather, the air is originating from Greenland and Canada, so it starts to turn much colder behind that cold front on Monday. Then by Tuesday, we're into this cold run of northwesterly winds. They're bringing the air out of Greenland and Canada. They'll be bringing wintry showers with them, and maybe some quite significant snow to northern and western parts of the country as well. Those cold northwesterly winds continue into Wednesday, and they're still there on Thursday as well. So cold and showery really sort of sums it up, I think, for much of next week, with a risk of significant snow over high ground across the northern parts of the country. And then by the end of next week, this area of low pressure is beginning to sink down across the country. And this may take more of a wintry risk, anyway, of wintry weather down into southern parts of the country towards the end of next week. That's how things look on Saturday, 20th of January, for example, where the low pressure now has slipped down into the southeast of England, for example. So that will bring the risk of snow further southwards in the back end of next week. Through much of next week, the risk of snow will be in the north and the west, with probably very little down into the southeast. But by the end of next week, that snow risk might be starting to push down even into the south. That's how we finish up on day 10, which is Sunday 21st of January, still looking cold. And notice by this point, the trough is through much of central Europe as well. So all parts of Europe are looking cold here. The air is pushing down from the north, pretty much across all parts of Europe, except in the very extreme east and southeast. You may still be under those milder southerly winds, but essentially most parts of Europe will be turning much, much colder through the course of next week, and there will be a risk of significant snow through many parts of Europe as well through the course of next week. What is the wintry potential with that GFS run? This is how the precipitation type forecast is looking from the weather outlook. So we're starting on Monday. There's that cold front pushing southwards and eastwards, bringing wet and windy weather to the north and west. Through the course of Monday, that band of rain pushes further southwards across England and Wales. Wintry showers start to pack in behind it. By Monday evening, that rain is clearing the southeast, and we're into those cold and showery northwesterly winds, wintry showers up in the northwest across Scotland and Northern Ireland. And then we go into Tuesday and we see lots of wintry showers here in the north and west. That looks like a general mass of snow really in the north and west. It won't be like that. It'll be sort of wintry showers, mainly snow showers though, for Scotland and for Northern Ireland. You see, there will be wintry potential across many parts of the country in the form of showers into the middle part of next week. This is taking us to Wednesday, for example, when we have lots of wintry showers still in the northwest. The southeast is getting the driest of the weather, but even there, a few wintry showers could push through. We've gone to Thursday, and the wintry showers continue in the north and west, and then we go into later Thursday and Friday, and you notice we're beginning to bring the chances of some snow through Wales and the Midlands. So that suggests that as we go into the latter stages of the week, that trough is sinking down across the country, so the risk of snow will be pushing further southwards with it as well. We've gone up to Saturday, and you see that again we have got the risk of at least wintry showers across many parts of the country. It doesn't show those defined areas of snow all that well, as we know, but certainly I think through the course of next week the risk of wintry conditions shifts further and further southwards with time. And we've gone up to Sunday, 21st of January, which is day 10. By then it's beginning to turn drier, but it will be very cold and frosty if that comes off. ECMWF looks like that, so we're starting here. Let's go through to Monday, when wet and windy weather is sweeping in from the north and the west, and then that takes us into that cold and showery spell with those northwesterly winds to the middle part of next week. The snow risk then particularly is in the north and the west. We've gone to Friday. Low pressure is to the north of Scotland, still bringing those cold west to northwesterly winds. And then the low pressure, similar to what the GFS is doing over the weekend of the 20th and the 21st of January, we find that low pressure slipping down across the country. That's where it is on Saturday, the 20th of January, centred over top of the UK. This is where it is by day 10, Sunday the 21st of January, and it's centred just off the East Anglian coast. Clearly at this point it is cold, the wind is in from the northeast, and if I show you the upper air temperatures, you can see that not just UK but many parts of Northern Europe are looking quite cold as well. The warmer than average temperature anomalies are over on the eastern side of Europe, and they're increasingly being pushed over towards the Black Sea as these colder temperatures dig down from the north with that trough of low pressure. Let's just finally see what the wind shear potential is from that E70F run. This is website weather.us. You can find a link to this website and all of the websites featured in this video. You find a link to all of them on the links page, actually. So again, we're starting here on Monday, when the snow basically is just across Scotland. This is depicting line snow, by the way, and it does go over the top with that because it assumes that every snowflake that falls lays, and we know that's not quite the same. So this is just a rough guide to where we can expect snow, but don't take the depths too literally. So it suggests that by Monday we have got risk of some snow across Scotland. Otherwise, not really much to be seen. Let's go through to Tuesday, and by then we're seeing an increasing risk of wintry weather across Scotland and parts of Northern Ireland down into northwestern England. Otherwise, not much. We go through to Wednesday, so then we see the risk. It is showing deep snow by then across much of Scotland, Northern Ireland, northwest England. Remember, don't take the depths literally. It's just a guide to where you can expect to see snow falling. So Scotland, Northern Ireland, northwest England down into Wales, that's where you've got a risk, and maybe the North Midlands, that's where you've got a risk of seeing some snow falling by the middle of next week. We'll go on another day. This takes us to Thursday, again mainly in the north and west with that snow risk through to Friday. And then we see the snow risk starting to extend into the south. So as I suggested, by the time you get through to the second half of next week, the risk of snow may well be pushing southwards. Again, don't take those depths too literally, but it's an indication that sort of the Midlands, central, southern, southeast England may be at risk of snow through the back end of next week. And then we go up to Saturday. Again, much of the country by this point is looking as though it's covered with snow, but it won't be quite that straightforward. But nevertheless, it's a continuing guide to tell us that through the course of next week, the risk of snow will increase. Initially, the risk of snow will be in the north and the west, and then eventually, by the time you get through to the second half of next week, and that weekend of the 20th or 21st of January, all parts really could be at risk of getting some snow by then. Probably not the sort of depths that the ECMWF model is suggesting, but I think we turn increasingly wintry through the course of next week. So it's quite an interesting outlook. This winter has been such a topsy-turvy winter, but remember, right at the very start of it, when we issued winter forecasts, we said we was expecting a colder winter. We were expecting a winter that was colder than any winter we've had since 2012, 2013, even if it wasn't necessarily a particularly severe winter. We were never really expecting a severe winter, but we did think there was more cold and snow potential with this winter than we've had in any winter since 2012, 2013, and I think over time that is very much verifying that forecast. So it looks like we're in for another dose of quite cold weather next week. The snow risk will initially, through the early and middle stages of the week, be mainly in the north and the west, where there could be substantial snow, particularly for Scotland and over high ground further south. And then the second half of next week, I reckon that snow risk is going to extend further southwards. So by the end of next week, and that sort of third weekend of January, I think we could be looking at some snow even down in the south and the southeast at that point. Beyond that, all eyes through the final week of January will be on that sudden stratospheric warming possible event that may occur. Right, we'll be keeping you updated with all of the twists and turns over the next few days, so do keep checking back for more, and expect to see a snow watch turning up before long. I would suspect the first one of those might be at some point over the weekend, maybe Sunday, but expect to see snow watch before very much longer. That's all for now then, thanks for watching.